That's where we going to see Beyonce at. In London, England. And our oldest daughter was like, do you hate us? I thought that was hilarious. She was like, how can you all do that to us?
Wait, and then our youngest, she's the one who actually secured the tickets.
Right.
And she was like, I'm just mad over here because of all that I had to do in order to actually get the tickets. And y'all getting them handed over to you. You ain't. Welcome. This is For Better and Worth,
the podcast where we don't believe you have to sacrifice your relationship while you grow and build your net worth.
We are your hosts.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ericka Young. And we're so glad you're joining us today.
All right, y'all. Let's get into it.
Hey, honey. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. I'm doing good.
How you doing this morning?
I'm feeling good. This is a good moment. So, you know.
Good moment. Okay.
Yes. So, oh my goodness. We about to talk about something that I'm sure a lot of people struggle with. How about that?
We about to tear the roof off.
I have to say, I need to preface this and say, like, I kind of had a moment where I wanted to kind of do what my daughters are doing.
Right.
And like I had to pull back. So anyway, let's just talk about it. Let's just talk about it.
The summer is coming up and so is concert season.
Yes.
And we all know one of the world's most famous women is going on tour. One was on tour last year, like Taylor Swift.
Yep.
Beyonce is going on tour this summer.
Yep.
And our daughters, who are adults, have their own money, have decided to go to the Beyonce concert. And I was like, you know what? That's good for y'all.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not looking to go to the concert. You know, I'm not part of the Beehive. You know, I like some Beyonce songs.
You used to love Beyonce.
I mean, who wouldn't love Beyonce?
I mean, but when she became a mama, you were like, all right, she not as sexy no more. And I'm like, dang.
That's messed up. Why you throw me under the bus like that?
Because I'm telling the truth. Like, I'm just saying.
I mean, she's still fine.
She is. Yeah. So these mamas out here, we could be fine. But it's funny because as soon as she had children, you were like, yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same.
Well, this is not even what the conversation was about.
No, it's not.
Like,
but it don't matter. It don't matter though because anyway, there was a part of me that was like, yeah, that's good. That's good because you were just such a Beyonce fan. I was like, oh my God. Anyway. But
well, I will tell, since you opened the door, I'll tell this one little story. You was tripping on me one day because, you know, I used to like Beyonce. You know, I was like, man, she's really pretty, and men are very visual.
Yeah,
everybody
she can
knows
sing.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, she can sing and all that.
She be dancing.
Yeah, she's a very pretty lady, and I think your friend had bought us like a Beyonce DVD or something,
and she got me a Beyonce wig. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember that.
She gave me a wig so I could look like Beyonce.
But it was around Christmas, and I was at home, and I was wrapping gifts, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna put this DVD on, and I had it on. It was blaring. We had surround sound. It was blaring, and I was like wrapping gifts and watching her perform on the DVD, and y'all came home and caught me like watching the Beyonce DVD wrapping gifts, because I don't know, I was just in my vibe. You were like,
vibing.
What you doing? And we just laughed.
You was having a moment with your girlfriend.
Yeah, we were just laughing about it, you know.
So anyway,
we ain't gonna talk about your John Legend moment. Okay.
You brought that up. See, I wasn't even going there.
I'm just saying. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, our daughters have decided.
Circle back.
Yeah, our daughters decided they were going to the Beyonce concert, and I was like, cool, you know, for y'all. And they got their tickets and paid for them, and then they were making their arrangements and trying to get some hotel points from us because they didn't want to pay. I was like, you all grown, you got this. These points for me and Mom. We travel with these points, and we had no intentions.
Well, you had no intentions.
I had no intentions on going to
and
the Beyonce
I had a little
concert.
FOMO for a minute. I had some FOMO. I had the fear of missing out, and I was like, "Dang, these are my girls. Maybe I should just try and get on the bandwagon. Let me find a ticket.
Don't try and crash they sister."
But and so here's the thing: they got the tickets, and then me and the girls had a conversation. They were like, "Well, if you want to go, Mom, my friend bought some extra tickets, all this stuff," and I was like, literally considering it, and I was like, "Do I crash their party? Or do I not? Like, they need their sister moment." But I warred with it. I did. And I was like...
See, I didn't know you were going back and forth.
Because I've never seen Beyonce. And I hate to say that because I feel like... I'm not a super fan. Let's not even pretend that I'm a super fan. But she's an amazing artist.
Yeah.
And I really began to think about how I never saw Michael Jackson. And I never saw Prince. And I wasn't a super fan of either. I did like Michael Jackson quite a bit, but I also didn't.
But you started to think back, like, man, these are icons that I never saw in concert. So you start thinking, like, well, wait a minute, I don't want to miss out on the opportunity to see Beyonce.
Yeah, and I have a friend who's seen Beyonce like 4 times, and I was like, dang, like I never prioritized her concerts, and so,
but I think. Just telling the story, I think, this is the Beyoncé effect, but I think it impacts a lot of areas of life.
It makes you, so what I mean by the Beyoncé effect is just the idea that something or someone in pop culture will cause you to want to spend some money and come outside yourself in order to go do the thing. And I was willing to go do extra measures to actually be a part of that so I wouldn't miss out.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, let me pull back and say, that's just them. And maybe I just myself need to prioritize her next time or what have you.
And FOMO is real.
Yeah.
But the plot thickens.
It does quite a bit.
I have a friend of mine, he and his wife, they decided they were going to go to the Beyonce concert with their daughter. And anybody who knows how ticket purchasing works nowadays, you're not guaranteed to get tickets. So they actually put in for tickets in 3 different locations.
Mm-hmm. And so what it was they got all 3 locations.
Right. And he and I were talking, and turns out one of these locations is in London, England. I was like, what? I was like, that's crazy. And so we were joking back and forth, and he was like, you want these tickets? We're going to go to this particular show. Mm-hmm. And I said, are you giving me these tickets? He's like, no, face value. I was like, nah, man, that's not what you said.
Because they had anticipated that they were going to sell whatever tickets they didn't use, and it would be easy to sell some Beyonce tickets, right? So, they weren't worried about having purchased in 3 different locations and all that. Right. They were just
they'll be able to sell the tickets.
Yeah.
Right? But we were joking. I was like, nah, man, you said, do I want the tickets?
Yeah.
And that means you're going to give them to me. He's like, nah, man, just, I'll sell them to you at face value. No, not a profit or anything like that. And so we went back and forth and we joked. And we were out at dinner. And he texted me and said, we will give you the tickets to London. I was like, what?
Hold on a second. You said give.
And I said, Ericka, I was like, he just said they will give us the tickets to London.
Oh, my goodness.
And she said, like give, like for free? And he called me immediately after. I said, man, give is a 4-letter word. You mean like 3? And he was like, yeah. I was like, man, stop playing with me. And his wife had bought the tickets. She was right there. She was like, yeah, if you want them, we'll give them to you.
I was like, wait a second. I said, what is going on right now?
I said, we're going home and look at flights as soon as we get home.
Flights to London. I mean, that is no small feat.
Right. And then, I said, we're going to call and flex on the kids.
Oh, my gosh.
So we called and said, yeah, y'all going to see Beyonce. Guess where we going to see Beyonce at? In London, England. And our oldest daughter was like, do you hate us? I thought that was hilarious. She was like, how can you all do that to us?
Wait, and then our youngest, she's the one who actually secured the tickets.
Right.
And she was like, I'm just mad over here because of all that I had to do in order to actually get the tickets. And y'all getting them handed over to you. You ain't even had to work for that.
Right. You had somebody who's going to give you tickets in London. And so we were like, okay. And we got home. And I was like, yeah, let me look at this. And reality set in real quick.
Real fast. Because, I mean, here's the thing. This is, I would say, a once-in-a-lifetime type of opportunity. Like, somebody gives you tickets, you get to fly to a whole different country to see this and have this whole experience.
We know people who have gone overseas to see different concerts, and, they talk about how much fun it was. So we were like, we about to do it up.
Because so in the last couple of years, we have had these YOLO moments. You know what I mean? You only live once. And one of those was our trip to South Africa, where we were like, okay,
opportunity is here. We got to take advantage
opportunity of a lifetime. If we never go back to Africa, which I can't say, like, we're going back.
We're going back.
But if we never did, that was our trip of a lifetime.
Right.
So
that was our moment.
And so we were like, this could be another one, right? And it's not as expensive as going to Africa, right? But it is.
But that reality of how
cheap,
how expensive a 3-day trip would be, I was like, Jesus, this is off the chart. So, long story short, we are still in process. We have not made a decision as of yet.
Yeah.
Because we are good financial stewards and budgeters.
Right.
We have set a budget on what we would be willing to spend.
Because you need leg room.
Look.
Because it's a 9-hour flight, right? Isn't it a straight 9-hour? What's up?
We taking the time out.
Okay.
You can say what you want about me.
I'm just saying. What?
I have taken that trip.
Yes.
And it's a long flight.
It is.
And I said, I'm not flying economy anymore.
On a long flight like that.
Long flights like that, I'm going to chalk it up. I'm going to pay the extra money for the leg room. I mean, it might not be first class, business class, but we're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
We're not sitting back in economy no more.
Yeah. So that increases the price.
Yeah, that jumped the price of those plane tickets up. And I was like, well, maybe I can sit in economy for this trip. I might be it's not as far as going to Africa. That was 9 hours and 12 hours. Maybe I can endure it for this 9-hour flight. But it's in progress.
It is. But it makes us really think about YOLO, like the mentality that you only live once, you might as well spend the money. And I think that here recently, in the last couple of years, that we have been having this conversation more often.
Right.
Where we're like, one of the things you're famous for saying to me is, in the end, you're not going to miss the money. You're not going to go back and look at it and be like, dang, I wish I didn't spend that money.
I say once the money is
spent, it's gone.
Yeah.
Right. And so that is something that I've been starting to adopt as well, because it's taken me a whole lot longer, because you were definitely more open-handed and more free to do stuff, and I have been much more of a penny pincher. I was
more of the spender.
Yes.
You were more of the saver.
Yes. And so it's shifting, because I think the reality is there's a lot of people who are no longer with us.
Yeah.
Who lived a life that wasn't, maybe they didn't even make it to how old we are now. Or they just have had hardships in life. And it's like, wait a minute, I want to live it while I can. I don't want to wait to go travel when my grandparents loved them dearly. They became a part of a travel club when they retired. And so for 10 years, they traveled around the world. And while I admire that, that's amazing. Great for you. I'm not waiting until 65. Yeah. Right? That we have decided that we weren't doing that. And so I think that there's a balance, like a dance you do with what do you do now versus what do you do later, and what do you spend money on now, and what do you wait on, and how do you navigate that? And we're much more leaning into spending money on experiences now versus waiting for some ominous time later. We just want to go have a good time.
And I think it can be the Beyoncé effect, or it can be any particular thing that makes you want to lean into that YOLO moment. But it's hard to just throw caution to the wind, because we are good financial stewards, and we're very methodical about how we spend. And we have, people on the spectrum where we have friends that they do everything. They don't say no to anything. And I don't know their financial situation because, I think too many times we pocket watch what other people do.
That's a good term.
Stop pocket watching people. Like what their money is and what's going on with them. We got to worry about what's going on right here.
Right.
And we want you to worry about what's going on right there. But we have friends that are doing everything. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what their money situation is. I don't know how they approach it, but good for them. We're going to do what's good for us. And we have friends on the other end of the spectrum where if it's not like dinner and a movie, they like, we out. We not doing it. No big vacations, no big spending. And I know they're very conservative in how they spend money. They save, they invest. They have, a number of different, investments. And so you've got people on both ends of the spectrum. And so I really just try and say, what's best for us? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what people have to do. Don't compare your money path to someone else's money path because you don't know the complete story.
And I think that's what FOMO does. So it's hard when you combine the fear of missing out with you only live once. Right. So if you're comparing your situation to somebody else, you think you're about to miss out on something. And if you're like, everybody gonna die at some point, I might as well enjoy now. You just on the live, right. You only live once. Right. And so when you combine it, that could be catastrophic to your finances. That's the honest truth. It can be catastrophic.
FOMO and YOLO can be a no-no.
It's not good for the budget. Okay.
But you said something. And I have to just be like more transparent with people.
Okay.
Like I think about how we have been really conservative a number of years.
Yeah.
And it has served us well because being that way and truly being blessed with, great incomes and careers and business has allowed us to, remain on track for retirement. And we know that some people think retirement is an age and some people think retirement is a number. Because if you talk to the FIRE community, it's all about reach your number and go do what you want to do and live the life you want to live. And others are planning on, collecting Social Security at age 70 because they want to max it out. And we all know that by, your body breaks down. And for me, over the last 10 years or so, I've lost a number of really close family members. And that every time we go through that loss, it just makes me sit down and just be really reflective of life because life is so short. Mm-hmm. And so it makes me want to lean more into my YOLO moment. Mm-hmm. And the blessing for us is that we're on track when it comes to retirement. Mm-hmm. We don't have debt, our mortgage is nearly gone. We don't have car loans, credit cards. So when those opportunities present themselves, we can say, you know what, we're gonna take this YOLO moment. But even in this YOLO moment with the Beyoncé tickets, we could go ahead and make this arrangement right now and financially do it. But we were like, hold on, but do we want to spend this money?
Is it wise to do that right now?
Right. Like, is this the thing to be doing? Let's see if we can do it on a budget.
Yeah. Can we spend less and still do the same thing?
Right.
And you mentioned something that I think is important to highlight. You said we've been conservative for a number of years. And I do think we have to define what conservative means. I don't know if it's the same. So I'm curious on your response. Okay. My response to being conservative is that, one, we have consistently, for our entire relationship, invested in our 401k.
26 and a half years.
And so we have not stopped that. We have not paused it, and we have not pulled dollars out of our retirement funds. Therefore, we have built up a sizable nest egg so that if we were to stop today putting money in there, we would still be okay at the time we decide to retire, which is still not for probably about at least 10 years, I would say. So So in that regard, that's how we know we're on track. We can actually do the calculations to show that we're on track. The other part of this is we're not stopping our investing. We have maxed out all of our opportunities for investing. We could be a little creative to save taxes and things like that, but we've maxed them out. So we're not just getting the company match. We're doing all of the money that we can for tax advantage purposes. And so when I think about you only live once and how much we might spend on a thing, it will not exceed how much we're investing on an annual basis. And we're not stopping that in order to have the YOLO moment. We're not stopping that to go to South Africa. And so we're like, can we do that? Can we do this thing while we are still contributing to our future? And on top of that, it is not negatively affecting today, which is our emergency fund.
Right.
So if we say yes to something, it is not causing us to go beneath at minimum 6 months of expenses in our emergency fund. And so when we think about what it looks like to have these healthy financial boundaries around yourself, I feel like we're now at a place where we can have these YOLO moments more often because we have created this healthy financial picture for ourselves over the last 26 years. It's taken that long to get to that place, but I think we have to define it. So how would you describe us being conservative with our money so that we can say yes today?
I think the definition you provided was very good.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, I think that we started. No matter where you are, you have to just make a decision to start.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we just happened to start at the onset of our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, we went further into debt, then we got out of debt. That's why we tell people it took us 7 years to get out of debt.
I say 5 because the first 2 we wasn't really into it.
Right. And so I just say 7 because it was from the time we got together to the time we were out of debt, it was about 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was the important thing. We set that foundation and we got out of debt. We didn't have car notes, and we said we're not going to have more payments. And so now, like, we've been conservative because we've just said, we're not going to. Some people say, well, I put everything on a credit card and I get the points, and I'm not willing to play the credit card point game because it's not that serious for me because I have cash and I can do those things that the points provide for me. And yes, they may be free points, but that's not my jam.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I say conservative, we're not getting into all of these other things that I consider gimmicks sometimes because, you can put all your bills on points and, build points up. And I'm the point king. I love points. I'm a Marriott Titanium, and it's
I love them points, okay?
Right. Like I love the experience, when we go and we have the status and stuff, because it just helps us save money.
It does.
We hit the concierge lounges up.
Yeah.
Whenever we are on a Marriott property.
I mean, and we also had a whole vacation. We did a whole weekend away in San Francisco.
It cost us nothing.
It cost us $0 because of the points.
So I understand the points game, and I play it to a point. But when you start factoring in credit cards, that's where I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when we talk about conservative, people will say that's conservative, so getting out of debt, not getting caught up in gimmicks and things like that with using credit cards for points and maintaining consistency with our 401k investment. Mm-hmm. We tell people invest to get the match at minimum, but as you earn income, try and max out your 401k potential.
Yeah.
It's the $23,000.
$23,500. Mm-hmm.
It's $23,000 this year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the catch up is $7,500.
Yep.
So that is $30,500.
Mm-hmm.
So build up to the $23,000. So you're not just doing the match, but you're getting the full capability. You're reducing your tax burden. Because that's pre-tax investing. So now your adjustable income. All these things I say lead to us being conservative and consistent because we're long-term investors. There's some people who are, day traders or people who are trying to short the market because they're trying to make money fast.
We're absolutely conservative investors.
Right. And that's why I say that. So that's what I'm talking about.
We're boring investors, actually.
Right, so look, the classic story about the tortoise and the hare, at the end of the day, the tortoise won. And I'd rather be a tortoise and weather the highs and lows, and at the end of the day, create generational wealth for my grandkids. Yeah. And I think that's where we'll be because we're teaching our kids these same principles, and at early, adult ages, they're putting them into place. And it is awesome to see them take the advice that we've given them and start to see the fruits of their labor playing out. So it's a long story. It's a long answer. But I think when somebody thinks about being conservative, they say, yeah, they're pretty conservative. But it puts us in a position today that when, Beyoncé in London pops up, we're like, you know what?
Maybe we can do that.
You know what? It's not going to change the course of our lives.
That's what you say. You say if it's not going to change the course of life, can we say yes? Right. And that's the thing. So I appreciate that you said that we're helping our kids to make these types of decisions too, because we have talked to our daughter about ensuring that she is investing in her 401k up to the match as well. And she's been doing that consistently over time, and periodically
we'll have savings into high yield.
Yep. And we have her look at it and say, look at what you have accomplished in this time. Look at how far you've come. And she is the one who is a spender of the two. And so we have helped her to become a saver and also learn how to enjoy. And
that girl take a trip.
She will take a trip. She know how to YOLO. Okay. She do that real good. Okay. Yeah. But we have guided her so that there are no regrets later on. Like, she started her investing journey at age 22, 23, and we are helping her to get where she needs to be. And she can enjoy the journey along the way. Yeah. And I think you can do both to a degree within your spending limits. And she's also a kid who took on a second job in order to make sure that she had some little extra spending money. Yep. She wasn't above doing that either. And so that, just knowing that you can balance it and not get into a ditch on either side.
And I think that's where you have to balance YOLO and being accountable to stay on track.
Yeah.
And for us, this opportunity presented itself, and we're like, okay, so, we were all excited, but I think for us, reality kicks in quick.
Right.
When we start to, count the cost.
Yeah.
Because when you start counting the cost, it's like, yeah, we can pay it, but should we pay it?
That's the question.
And so I think we just balance it. Like, even when we think about experiences or trips, for us, it's generally a trade-off. Mm-hmm. If we're going to do this, then we're not going to do that. Or if we're going to do that, we're going to modify this. Or like in the case of Beyoncé in London, we may say, okay, if we're going to do this, this is not an emergency, it's not this, but it's probably going to come from this area, this account, and we're making a choice to do it. But I have to say this. I have to say this because this is just it's just funny to me. So our daughter was home and we were just talking. We you know what, we doing everything. We gonna blow the bag. And she was like,
I'm like, first of all, I was like, what is he saying? We ain't blowing the bag. But anyway, go ahead.
Right. And she's like, what you mean? What about my inheritance, my future? I was like, listen, let's be honest. If you do what we're telling you to do, you're not going to need any money from us.
That's right.
Anyway.
And then I said, matter of fact, at some point, we're going to give all our money to our grandkids. So your kids will get it. You don't need it because when we die, you're going to be 60, right? So Right.
You're going to have your own money
then. That's right.
Because that's how you create generational wealth.
Yeah.
And our goal from the onset was to change our financial family tree. And so if we have adults that are doing the same thing, and when we're old and they're old and we both have money, it's like, okay, now I'll leave it to your grandkids. to your kids, which are my grandkids. And then when you get old, you leave it to your grandkids, and then your kids, when they're old, they leave it to. That is a generational tree that we create. Every next generation, but you got to make sure that you keep teaching the principles and they keep embracing those principles so there's not a breakdown somewhere.
So I think it's interesting. I want to come back to one thing before we get to make it worth it. There was something that's been rolling around in my head since we've been talking, because we've been talking about teaching our kids, and we have, I don't think both of them live like YOLO. I don't. No. I think only one of them does.
Yeah, one of them is definitely conservative like us.
Yes. But we're trying to teach them to have the balance of, like, you have, without a doubt, you got to save. Life. You got to save. You got to save for your retirement. You got to have an emergency fund. And yes, you have to live life. So there has to be this balance. And some of the choices that our oldest daughter makes, because she's grown, she's, does what she wants with her money. Sometimes we don't agree, right? And that can't be different with our friends. Like, we may not agree, but sometimes it can be hard when you don't agree with how people manage their money or when they make certain choices. I think
the disagreement is like, I just want you there.
Yeah, like we want to kick it with our friends.
I just want you to be there so we have the experience together.
But I think we can't. I think what I'm realizing here is that what's right for me may not be right for someone else.
That's right.
And you have to respect those differences, because what's right for me may not be right for my daughter.
Their YOLO may be different than your YOLO.
Yes. And so if we can keep a healthy, like, not allow differences to cause it to break down a relationship, because we're doing that with our daughter. So why would it be any different with our friendships or with other family members, for instance? Right. Like, people have to live with their decisions. They have to wake up and look at themselves in the mirror and be okay with what they see, just like we do. And so I think I'm going to get to my make it worth it, because I think during this episode, what I'm gathering for myself is that we can't project what's happening with us onto other people, be it our kids, our friends, or other family members. We want folks to use wisdom, and whatever wisdom is for them is fantastic. We're trying to teach our kids good principles. We want our friends to take on good principles. We want our family members to do what's right. But ultimately, everybody have to sleep in their own bed and wake up, feeling good about who they are and the decisions that they've made. And we have to respect whatever that is for them.
Look, I have, as you say, your word, at this big age, I have learned not to take everybody else's issues onto me and put it on my back.
Oh, yes. What do you say?
I'm not putting anybody's monkeys on my back.
You say, there are my problems.
There are your problems and not my problems. Mm-hmm. There's two types of problems: your problems and not my problems. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not taking your burdens on me. I'm gonna let you figure that out, because I have enough things to figure out in my own life, and that's giving me freedom.
Right.
Because we take too many other people's burdens on ourselves, or we take other people's journeys on that are not ours.
Yeah.
And so I'm okay knowing that my YOLO may look different than someone else's YOLO. Mm-hmm. And I have been working my life to be in a position to say yes more.
Yeah.
And so I am in the yes phase of my life.
Yeah.
To say yes to this, say yes to that, say yes to this, especially if it's things that I want to do, but I'm well equipped to say no and know that it's a complete sentence. And it doesn't require any explanation.
That's true. That's true. And that's true for others to us. Like, they don't have to explain to us.
Exactly.
So this is so good. Let me pause, because I think one big thing that we have to acknowledge is that we've earned the right to be here. That conservative behavior for the last 26 plus years has afforded us the opportunity to say yes to things that 20 years ago we couldn't have said yes to.
My belt was tight for a long time.
It was.
Now I'm like, you know what? Let me let I got a ratchet belt now. I just be like, I press the button, let it out a little bit.
And I think that is what we all want.
It said I have a ratchet belt. I didn't mean like
like it's ratchet.
It's like, the belt can expand.
It's a utility belt. Yeah. It's weird. It's weird and it's not attractive. But anyway, you got one of those. But I think that is...
People who know why I wear that know why I wear that.
Oh, my God. You're crazy. But...
Don't run up on your boy.
But I think that needs to be said is that we did the work. We've earned the right to say yes when we want to. And that is a big deal. And I think that is something that is a version of financial peace. That is a version of freedom in our finances where we made certain sacrifices and said no for many years to different things. And now that we get a chance to say yes, I am not going to feel bad about it.
Right.
Hands down.
So I think that was my make it worth it.
Okay.
Like my YOLO is for me. Your YOLO is for you.
Yep.
But because we have been conservative and we have made other decisions, and we used to call it, the bigger yes.
Yeah.
And that's what helps us make decisions. What's the bigger yes that I want to say yes to? And that helps me say no to some things. So it puts me in position to say yes to other things. And so I hope you guys are taking this. When you listen, watch this, press like, follow, share this with your friends, and, live your best life. But make sure you take care of business first.
Absolutely.
My mom used to always say, you can go outside and play, but you're going to handle business first. Mm-hmm. You're going to clean up your room or do whatever your chores are, handle your homework. Then you get to go play.
Yeah.
So YOLO is getting to go play.
Yeah.
So before you go play, handle your business.
There you go. Well, I love it. This was great. So, we don't know what we're going to do about Beyoncé, but...
we'll let you all know.
That's right. That's right. So until next time...
We're out. Thank you for spending some of your time with us today.
We appreciate all of your support. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to this podcast.
You can find us on Instagram at For Better and Worth.
And sign up to receive our free guide, The 7 Reasons Your Money Relationship Isn't Working with Your Partner, on ForBetterAndWorth.com.
Until next time, we're out of here.